dynamic and competitive world of art, the desire to become famous often drives many artists. Fame not only brings recognition and appreciation for their talent, but also opens various career and financial opportunities. However, behind the quest for fame, there are strange methods used to achieve this goal. One of the more extreme and irrational methods is through murder. Young man who was arrested for his involvement in a drug trafficking ring and was sentenced to prison at Innis Road for a period of time. However, his days there became so terrifying that they were nearly unbearable. Every night, when the prison guards turned off the lights and the corridors fell silent, Adrian began to sense the presence of an invisible entity circling his cell. Faint whispers, like the hiss of wind, could be heard in his ears, though it was unclear what they were saying. Then, a transparent woman appeared with a pale face. Her empty eyes stared intently, causing Adrian to tremble and nearly faint. Initially, Adrian tried to ignore the ghostly presence, thinking it might be just his overactive imagination. However, the apparition's visits became more frequent each night. Adrian could no longer escape the presence, even when he tried to sleep or calm his mind. He felt he was never alone in his cell and became increasingly distressed. The mounting fear ultimately led Adrian to report the situation to the prison guard, but the guard merely laughed it off. Many inmates had been in his cell for a long time and none had reported any ghostly sightings. Desperate to escape further terror, Adrian eventually made a shocking confession. A confession that led him back to the police station to face other past crimes. It was at the interrogation table that he revealed a dark story he had kept hidden for over 2 years. Diligently honed his talents since childhood, maintaining his aspiration to become a famous rapper. However, over time, he grew disillusioned with his lack of success. One evening, in the dark corner of Vania, Ottawa, Adrian walked alone, burdened with frustration and questioning his fate and when he might achieve fame. It was then that he saw a beautiful sex worker standing on the street. He approached her, seeking a distraction from his frustration. Her name was Jennifer Stewart, and she was actually older than him, at 36 years old. They engaged in friendly conversation, and from that encounter, Adrian began to harbor strange thoughts. He believed that the sex worker might be the quickest route to achieving his goal of fame. On the night of August 20th, 2010, Dow lured Jennifer Stewart to a parking lot on Alice Street under the pretense of arranging a drug transaction. In an instant, the night turned deadly. Dow attacked Stewart from behind with an axe. After his brutal act, Dow felt as though he had reached the peak of his power. He confessed to the police that he felt he had gained a new strength to continue his life. However, this feeling quickly morphed into paranoia. Dow returned to the crime scene the following night, hoping that no one would suspect him. He tried to clean up the crime scene as thoroughly as possible, including disposing of his clothes and the axe. In a recorded video confession, Dow not only described his crime, but also demonstrated his brutal methods. He believed that committing murder would make him famous and enhance his reputation in the hip-hop world. Through this act, he thought he could make headlines and attract media attention. Despite the negative publicity, it would bring him widespread recognition. Dao was influenced by the stories of some hip-hop artists he knew, who often portrayed their tough lives and reinforced a gangsta image. Clearly, Adrian Dao displayed mental instability and an odd perspective on achieving success in the music industry. In the confession made on February 26, 2013, Dao stated that he had informed 4 friends about his crime. Detective John Monette testified in the first-degree trial that the police had tracked down those who were informed, but they had not been located. Only one name was obtained, but unfortunately that person had already passed away. Initially, John Monette was skeptical that Dao, a drug dealer and dishwasher, was telling the truth. However, based on the investigation, several details known only to the killer matched the results of the victim's autopsy. Dao initially claimed to have killed the victim with a military knife, but during the demonstration he held it as though it were an axe. Thus, the actual weapon used was an axe, not a military knife. It seemed he was lying to add more value to his actions. In Dao's confession, Jennifer Stewart was described as having tried to push his hand away, which matched the severe wrist injuries found on the victim. It appeared she was trying to defend herself, but it was in vain. Dao was proven to have meticulously planned everything, including wearing a mask, gloves, and glasses. This clearly worsened his sentencing. Dao felt relieved after revealing his secret. He also expressed regret for Jennifer Stewart's death in a manner that was unjustified. He apologized to the victim's family, stating he deeply hated what he had done. Jennifer Stewart did not deserve to die in such a way, he said in the video confession. He expressed a desire to start a completely different life after making amends for everything. Jennifer Stewart's death shook the Ottawa community, especially in Vanier. The residents of Vanier, accustomed to a relatively quiet city life despite some minor criminal incidents, were suddenly confronted with the darker side of social reality that is often hidden behind everyday life. Many people were outraged and felt that the legal system needed to deliver more decisive justice. This anger was directed not only at the perpetrator, but also at the social conditions that allowed such violence to occur. There were calls for increased preventive measures and protection, particularly for vulnerable individuals like sex workers. The case also led to increased police patrols in Vanier and the installation of more streetlights and surveillance cameras. Community organizations revitalized mental health campaigns and opened spaces to better channel latent talents. Residents began to collaborate more closely, support one another, and create a safer, more caring environment. Together with the authorities, they worked to address underlying social issues such as poverty and instability that can trigger violence. Law enforcement started adopting a more holistic approach in handling violence cases, focusing not just on arrest and punishment, but also on understanding the root causes and preventing similar violence.